Jnana buddhi pradipena yona vishadi yogavit adurasya andaratmanam nasa rogam chikitsati. So we have to be able to enter deep into the inner being of the patient, but without really in an invasive way. This is what Arjuna's approach is, non-invasive. I mean, he's not really scanning or cutting open or directly even see. So that is a challenge. So this is the main imagery, and this is the theme of our discussion today. So we know that this is why Vagbhada has also emphasized Dushyam Desham Balam Kalam Analam Prakritim Vaya Sattvam Satmyam Tathaharam Avasthascha Prathagvitha Sukshma Sukshmaha Samikshesham Dosha Ushada Dirupane Yo Vartade Chikitsayam Nasaskhalati Jadujit. So Vagbhada has also very clearly mentioned that only one who is able to see these Sukshma Sukshma Avasthas, and our whole question here today is how can we understand what are these Avasthas? And how can we understand them, and how do we get the training to be able to target these avasthas, which will actually make all the difference between an ordinary physician and a physician who of great success. So this is the reason why in Ayurveda it has also been emphasized that muhur muhur aveksha is the real backbone of Ayurvedic treatments. Continuous observation of the patient, continuous observation of varying conditions in the patient, and constantly adapting and adjusting, the treatment in accordance with the changes that happen in the body. So Charaka has also again explained this in another way. Vriddhisthana kshayavastham roganam upalachayed susukshmam api cha pratnyo dehagni balachetasam vyadhyavastha visheshan hi jnatva vichakshana tasyam avasthayam chatushreya prapadyade. So the vriddhisthana kshayavasthas of the doshas, of the rogas. So there is something called as Roga Avastha. There is the Avastha of the Deha, there is the Avastha of Agni, there is the Avastha of Bala, and there is the Avastha of the Manas. So here in this shloka, Charaka is telling us what are the key Avasthas that we must give attention to. So Roga Avastha is very important. Deha Avastha is very important. Agni Avastha is very important. The Avastha of Bala is very important. The Avastha of Manas is important. And when you come to Deha Avastha, we will go further into detail. We need to know the Avastha of the doshas, the Avastha of Ama in the system. We will come to a little bit more detailed analysis of that as we move forward in our discussion. So Muhur Muhur Aveksha means Yastu Roga Visheshatnyaha Sarva Bhaishajya Kovida Deshagala Pramanatnyas Tasya Siddhira Samse. So these are the elements that yes to roga visheshatnya. Now the COVID-19 disease has really brought out this concept of roga visheshatnyanam. COVID is challenging us. It is presenting us in so many different ways. Each COVID patient comes with a very different presentation. So from King's College London, there was a recent publication which has identified 6 symptom clusters of COVID. And COVID is also a disease in which you can see the Avastha Visheshas continuously changing. And I have been following, but being in Kerala, we never get a chance so far to treat a COVID patient directly. But I have been involved in creating a clinical profile of COVID and working with some clinicians who have actually been treating. It appears that this Avastha Vishishta approach of Ayurveda is what is giving us a great advantage in treating COVID-19. I have reviewed cases and looked at the videos and experiences of patients who were in very critical stages. You can see that people are spending lakhs and lakhs of rupees. I was surprised to see many allopathic hospitals charging patients in lakhs, 2 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 6 lakhs, 8 lakhs for a short period of treatment, and bombarding with so many kind of medicines. They really don't know what to do. And once they clinically recover a little bit, they are just discharged. And many of them have residual problems. And we have compared it with people who have got getting Ayurvedic treatment. The recovery is more complete, and a customized method of treatment is, making a big difference. Okay, somebody just muted me, so I just needed a moment to unmute myself. Okay, so yogatnyastva perubhatnyas tasam tattva vidyuchyate. So what we are going to discuss today is how to use the yogas, how Ayurvedic treatment, when used according to the avasthas, will give the result, and otherwise it will not. So, Chanadir Vyadhyavastha cha kalo bhaishajya yoga krit. There are two types of avasthas. One is the physical time, which is Chanadi. That is also used in modern medicine when they say in the morning, afternoon, 111, 101. We have all these kind of, pharmacological posology principles where physical time is taken into consideration for administering medicines. But in Ayurveda, Vyadhyavastha is also equally important. Bhaishajya Yoga Krit. Without considering Vyadhyavastha, the Bhaishajya will not have effect. And Acharya has very clearly mentioned Matra Kala Shraya Yukti. So in Ayurvedic posology, this Kala, in considering Vyadhyavastha and adjusting the matra according to that, is what makes all the difference in treatment. So now we will look into some examples. I want to give some clinical examples based on the texts, on the basis of which we can understand what we mean by avasthas. So when you look at Jwara, every disease itself has a very general avastha, which makes us to prevent the use of many, many medicines in that particular disease. So the avasthas can be, some of the avasthas can be fluctuating very much in the course of a disease. Some of the avasthas may be more stable. So when it comes to Jwara, first of all, the acharyas are warning about a general avastha in Jwara, which is Ushma Pitta Drade Nasti, Jwaram Nasti Ushmanavena, Tasmad Pitta Viruddhani, Tejet Pittadi Gethigam. So this is very, very interesting, because if you look at the choice of medicines, I have always been intrigued. When we get fever, when we get cold, we are commonly using rasam, which is having garlic as well as maricham in that. But if you look at the whole Jwara Chikitsa, maricha is not at all indicated. It's not mentioned even once. Shunthi is mentioned, but maricha is not at all mentioned. So you can see the choice of medicines are always considered. First, we are considering it shouldn't be viruddha to the avastha of the disease. So tasmad pitta viruddhani tejed. In the whole of fever, we have to eliminate doshas which are pitta viruddha, because of the underlying pitta viruddha avastha. In all types of jwaras, it will be there. So that is the reason why, the difference why shunthi is used, but maricha is not used. So that in Jwara, interestingly, I mean, the importance of shunthi is that once shunthi undergoes vipaga, it gets into madhura vipaga, and then it will not be able to do pitta vriddhi. Whereas while it is being digested, it is katu and ushna. So it's a bit interesting. We need to think about this. If you take ginger juice, you can really feel the burning in your stomach. So it's very difficult to imagine that, it will not aggravate pitta. And this is why shunthi is used, like, srishtavit bahupitto va sashundhi makshigam himam. In Jwara Chikitsa, even when pitta is there, shunthi has been advised. Srishtavit bahupitto va sashundhi makshigam himam. Only the peya has to be made himam, but shunthi can be added. So the reason here is, in Jwara, the ama is there in the amasya, whereas pitta vriddhi is in the shakha. So that is the treatment of Jwara. Inside, in the amasya, we have to increase agni without disturbing the pitta, that is, causing the heat in the body. So shunthi is specifically good for that. While it can increase agni in the koshta, once it undergoes vipaka, it will not disturb the pitta. This is why so much of prayoga of shunthi is seen in Jwara, and especially if it is Vadaka Jwara, then, it has a very predominant use. Now, if you look at Kasa again, so many avasthas have been mentioned by our acharyas. Now, what I wanted to point out is that this avastha vishishta chikitsa is something which we will have to really develop into a formal algorithm. And I will also give some experiences that I had in my own clinical practice. So here it is, pitta kase tu sakaphe vamanam sarpishahitam. Pitta kase tanukaphe trivurdam madhurer yutam. So here the thing is, now cough if you study Kasa Chikitsa, actually in modern medicine, there is no treatment for Kasa at all. I mean, this is a very famous thing that all, anti-cough medicines are a scam. I mean, there is a strong opinion that they have no effect at all. Most of them are sedatives. They'll just sedate you so that that irritation of vata is reduced. They don't actually deal with the whole samprapti of Kasa at all. But when you look at Ayurvedic texts, it's so beautifully explained, all minute conditions. Now here the slight difference, Pitta Kase to Sakabhe. So I want to illustrate a situation here. When you are in clinical practice, are we really making a distinction of these conditions? Pitta Kase Sakabhe. Vamanam Sarpishahitam. So that minute involvement of kapha makes you to take a decision to do Vamana with Sarpis. And Pittagase Tanukaphe Trivridam Madhureidam. You are planning a Virechana. So this is very different from the way today, if you get Kasa, if it is Pittagasa, we may give some Siddhobaladi Churna or Karpuradi Churna. Where is this concept of, Dosha Vikalpa? When we do that, the results will be extremely, amazing. Kaphanubandhe Pittetu Kuryat Kapharam Kriya. There's a mistake in the typo error. When there is Kaphanubandha along with Pitta, Kabhara treatment has to be done. Pittanubandhayor, Vata Kabhayor, Pitta Nashinim. So this kind of dosha vikalpas in a disease is extremely important. Now this changes may happen in one patient itself, because as you give the treatment, as the disease progresses, Pitta Kasa in the same person can have a Sakabha state and a Tanukabha state. There can be a Kaphanubandha state and there can be Pittanubandha or Vadakabha. In Vadakabha condition, when there is Pittanubandha, we have to give importance to Pitta and we must treat that. So Vata Shleshtmatmage Shushke Snigdham Ardre Virutshanam Kase Karma Saputtetu Kabhaje Tikta Samyutam. So this kind of granularity in the thinking of avasthas of the disease is extremely important, and the choice of the medicine will actually make a big difference. Whether you do Vamana or Virechana is going to make a big difference. Whether you have chosen Trivrit or Haritagi is going to make a difference. And this kind of specific thinking is what we are beginning to lose today. So medicines in Kasa according to Avastha of Agni. This is again a very, very important thing. We miss this. When you read Kasa Chikitsa, there is suddenly a context where Acharya says, Deeptegno vidhiresha syad mande deepana pachana. Which means that all the vidhis that have been mentioned so far is to be given only in a patient with Deeptagni. Whereas when there is Mandatva of Agni, then Deepana Pachana, and immediately after telling this is when Agastya Rasayanam is described in Kasa Chikitsa. So Agastya Rasayanam is specifically helpful in increasing Agni. In many of these diseases, when you talk of immunity in Ayurveda, we are always talking about Ojas. That is not the only element. In my understanding, Agni Bala is even more important. Agni is the Balam, what we are talking about, innate immunity today, phagocytosis, all these things is the strength of Agni itself. So in many of the diseases, it is by strengthening Agni that we are helping the body to overcome the disease. Now, when you look at Jwara, the first focus is on Agni itself. So in all viral diseases, even in COVID-19, this innate immunity, a person who has better Agni is able to handle viral diseases much more effectively. And those who do not have that. So stabilizing Agni is very, very important. And this Agastya Rasayana is very, very, very significant here, because in Agastya Rasayanam, the main ingredient is Haritaki. So every yoga has a Pradhana Dravya and Apradhana Dravyas. So this has been mentioned in Charaka Samhita, Kalpasthanam, 12th chapter. Tehitanya anuvartande manujendra mivedare. So in a yoga, there is Viruddha Viryam Appyesham Pradhananam Abadhagam. So in a yoga, there are three major categories of medicines. The Pradhana Dravya or Dravyas, then the Apradhana Dravyas, then the ingredients which we are adding for Ishta Rasa Gandha Varna sparsha, for palatability, for bioavailability and all that. So the Pradhana Dravya is very important. Now, the Pradhana Dravya in Agastya Rasayana is Haritaki. Now, Agastya Rasayana, this way we are not using it today. In Agastya Rasayana, we are supposed to have the whole Haritaki in that lehya. And that whole Haritaki has to be taken and chewed. I've always wondered why only in Agastya Rasayana, Acharyas have asked to, take one Haritaki and chew it. Because this origin of correcting the gut, today we are talking about the gut microbiome. I have seen some COVID-19 patients, when you treat it like avarana of vata in the koshta, good results are coming. Even in severe hypoxia, they are responding very well, because amashe gade vate, Shadharana Churna is indicated. And if you look at the Amasegata, the Lakshanas, Kasa Shwasas are also mentioned. In Ayurveda, it's very clearly told, Urastha Kuride Shwasam, Amasya Samudbhavam. So we are basically working on the Amasya also. That's the importance of Agastya Haritaki. And here, if you look at Bhava Pragasha has given us this clear indication why Haritaki should be chewed. Charvita Vardhayatyagnim. Bhrashta Sangrahini Prokta. So, in Chavana Prasha, we are taking Amalaki and we are doing, frying it in ghee. Whereas Haritaki, we are boiling and we are asking the patient to chew it. So, Charvita Vardhayati Agnim. So, if you want really Agastya Haritaki to increase your Agni, if it should have that tremendous impact on your Agni, you have to ask the patient to actually chew Haritaki. And actually, you can get that fresh Haritaki to make that yoga. It's not possible today. And at the market level, it is very challenging. Where I'm working now in Amrita Life, Amrita University, our pharmacy used to make it for some time. But in large scale, it is very difficult. But there is a big clinical difference when you ask a patient, response is much faster, the digestive system, especially, allergy, the tendency for allergy and all those things. When Agni is increasing, that will be very quickly overcome. Now, in Chavana Prasha, the whole idea is absorption. Sangrahana. Sangrahani means grahani. Grahana means to, absorb. So, Haritaki is that, is Bhrashta, Grida Bhrashta. So, Bhrashta Sangrahini Prokta. So, it means it will improve the absorption of, the nutrients into the body. So, this minor kind of processing in Ayurveda is extremely interesting and important. And that is how the medicine's effect is coming. If you don't do that. Now, I was discussing with a scientist from Kannur University, Dr. Haridas sir. So he was telling me that, when you are making Ayurvedic medicines in a particular way, especially our gutikas, which we, grind for a long period of time, there is something that is happening, what you can call as solid state fermentation. So when solid state fermentation happens, many of these active principles, like he showed berberin, piperin, these are active principles in some of these medicines. When you are processing them in this way, their molecular structure is changing. Which means that if you take them without this processing, if you were to take that medicine, your body's metabolism would have had to change them into this condition, making them more bioavailable. So by the time they become bioavailable, they are ready to be excreted. But if this processing of solid state fermentation happens during the preparation of the medicine, then you have a more potent and bioavailable chemical also. That transformation has happened outside the body. It's like a vipaka that has happened outside even before you have taken the medicine inside. So these kind of processings, these kind of adjusting to the avasthas is extremely, extremely important in Ayurveda. So next, Charaka very clearly says, for this reason, he tells you also, when I started reading Ayurveda, I was very, very surprised when I read this portion. Satya evam api nirdeshe, tasmat satyapi nirdeshe kuryad uhya swayam dhya. There is no textbook in the world which is telling you to disobey what is given in the text. Ayurvedic teaching is like that. Our acharyas are finally saying that we will consider you as an intelligent physician when you become capable of disobeying us. So for alpa buddhinam yathoktacharanam eva shastra. Buddhimadam to swanumana yukti kushalanam anuktartha grahanaya. So for a person, so Acharya Vagbada also says, Dishanaya Sheshamapi Swayam Uheda Buddhiman Na Shastra Matra Sharano Nachanalo Chidagama. So, Ayurveda is making the physician to think freely in clinical practice. In allopathy, we are being dictated by the medical representatives or the pharma companies. There is no thinking. After you study your medicine, you sit in a clinic, the medical representative is your new teacher now. They will come and tell, in this condition you give this, here is the literature, and now you don't have any time to verify or think. You start prescribing, and then you get all the incentives. Today, editors of big journals like Lancet and New England Journal of Medicine have confessed that they are the victim of the pharma industry. I hope you have read that. In the last few days it has come that the whole pharma company is controlling even research publications. So the physician actually does not have any freedom of independent thinking, whereas the Ayurvedic training is trying to take you to a stage where in front of the physician, your creativity has to come. That is why Sushruta said, Tattvadigatha Shastrartho Drishtakarma Swayam Kriti. The physician is a Swayam Kriti. That is the vision of an Ayurvedic physician. With that much depth and understanding of the Shastra, because every patient is new, every patient is a context for a new research, for a new finding. What you do to one person cannot be done on another. So that is our question. Can everything be predetermined? When everything is in avastha, when everything is changing, how can a group of researchers say for permanently that if you give this medicine, this is going to work, when your clinical situation is continuously changing? When I was in Italy once, I was speaking to some modern doctors there. And, in that context, I became a little apologetic. I told them, in Ayurveda, we are not so standardized. We don't have strict guidelines like yours. And then that doctor looked at me and smiled and said, you are lucky. Because here, even if we know that doing something will harm the patient, if we violate the guideline, we will be in jail. Even if which means even if I know the patient is going to die and what I do will kill the patient, if I follow the guideline, then I am safe. So that guideline becomes a rigid framework. Whereas in Ayurveda, we do not have that. And this is an example. Na chaikandena nirdeshte pyarthe abhinivished Buddha. I have told you many things here, but don't think that these are very strict instructions. I am trying to tell you how to understand the situation. Swayamapyatra vaidyena tarkyam buddhimada bhavet. There is no other shastra which is giving you so much intellectual freedom. Swayamapyatra vaidyena tarkyam. You have to, use your intelligence when a patient comes in front of you, because utpadyadehi savastha. Deshakala balam pradi yasyam karyam agaryam syat karma karyam cha varjidam. So a situation will come where karyam akaryam syat. What should be done will become undoable. And karma karyam cha varjidam. And what has been contraindicated will become indicated. So this is the golden moment of an Ayurvedic physician. In front of the patient, he is there and the patient is there. And his judgment is going to make the whole difference. It's like you are in a plane and you have to land now, and you know that every decision that you make, in the next moments is going to make the difference between life or death of the passengers in your plane. And this is the responsibility of an Ayurvedic physician. So that is why Charaka said in Charaka Samhita also, Bishak Bubhushur Madiman, Atas Swaguna Sampadi, Param Prayatna Matishted, Pranadasyad Yathanranam. So take all the effort to become an expert, because this is the responsibility that you have. Only you can develop the qualities that you need to save the patient in front of you. We can tell you all the shastras, but when the patient comes in front of you, no guideline, no shastra will help you. Only your Samskrita Mati. That is the Shastra Krita Buddhi, the Yukti. That is why the Yukti is what we are using. When we apply the learning of the Shastra through our Buddhi into that context, that insight that we get at that moment in front of that patient is called Yukti. And that is why Charaka says, Siddhir Yuktau Pradishtita. Chardi Hridroga Gulmanam Vamanam Sve Chikitside Avastham Prapya Nirdishtam Kushtinam Vastigarmaja. So in Chardi Hridroga and Gulma, Vamana is contraindicated. But avastham prapya nirdishtam, when there is a context arising, we may have to do the very things that have been prohibited. So that is why Charaka says, Tasmat satyabi nirdeshe kuryad uhya swayam dhiya vina tarkena ya siddhir yadricha siddhirevasa. So Charaka also very clearly says, this is, we are going to more details of avasthas, but some points I wanted to clearly indicate. Today there is a tendency, a lot of people are feeling that if we learn more and more yogas, we will become more and more successful. The yoga's Phalashruti itself is very confusing. Every disease is mentioned in one Phalashruti itself. So it means what ties them all together is an avastha, it's not a disease. So Charaka says, Yogaireva chikitsanhi deshadhyatnyo aparadhyati vayobala shariradi bhedahi bhavo mata. So if you just treat with the yogas I have mentioned, you will fail. So this is the tragedy today. We are trying to test the yogas in Charaka Samhita and clinical trials and trying to check whether they're efficacious or not based on their indications, when Charaka himself has said that such kind of assessment will fail. Yogaireva chikitsanhi deshadhyatnyo aparadhyati. So in another context, he very clearly says, Na yogaireva kevalam Subudhevam sahasrani kotirvapi vigalpayet bahudravya vigalpatvad yoga sankhyana vidyade. So Ayurveda will come back to its glory only when we start identifying avasthas and creating new yogas according to the patient's condition. And I cannot believe that this will be against modernization. When I was once in Germany, one of my friends there took me to a pharmacy of herbs. And I was very surprised at the kind of thing that is being done there. So here, they have all the herbs, and how neatly, how hygienically they have kept all the herbs. The pharmacist will get a fax message from the Chinese doctor who is seeing the patient. Every prescription is customized. It is a pharmacist who mixes all that. There is also a quality check, a machine where they look for high quality medicines. And every time a patient comes, almost every other patient, they are creating a new customized formulation. And that is couriered to the home of the patient from that pharmacy. There is no prepared medicines, no preservatives. So this is happening in a very westernized, environment. Whereas this idea has completely been lost from Ayurveda. We are working with very fixed formulations, fixed medications, and we are expecting to get, miraculous results. This is impossible. So for Ayurvedic practice to be, effective, it's very, very important that we go according to the avastha and we customize our formulations. So I want to show some avasthas. So Kashaya Pana Pathyanner Deshahaidi Lankhide Sarpir Dedyad Kabhe Mande Vada Pittotare Jwere. See, in Ayurveda, when we talk about modernization of Ayurvedic medicines, something which is completely lost is the avastha chinta, that we are making patent medicines which are just tablets. It is based on the idea that it's just the chemicals in it that may be producing an effect. So everything we can convert into tablets, very easy for the patients to swallow it. But in Ayurveda, the dosage form, the kalpana is so important according to the avastha of the disease. If you don't give a medicine in the correct kalpana, you will not get the result. Kashaya Pana Pathyanner, two examples I want to give from my own clinical practice. Kashaya Pana Pathyanner Dashahaidi Lankhide Sarpir Dadyat Kabhe Mande Vada Vittottare Jwere Pakveshu Dosheshu Amridam Tad Vishopamu Manyatha. This is the critical point. That same grida, when the doshas have attained paka, will become visha when there is ama. So the avastha makes all the difference. Here, dosha, when we are talking about vada pittotara jwara, I also want to tell one experience, very recently that happened, of a case of fever which was not subsiding with regular, treatments. Crocin, no response. In Ayurveda, Amrutotharam, no response. So a close examination of the patient revealed that he had kind of a little bit of delirium, like, speaking, incoherently and speaking too much. And that suddenly gives the idea, Jrimbhadi Vaktvam Chalat Sapitta, that Ati Vaktvam is a sign of Chalat Sapitta. So if the patient is not yet in a completely Nirama stage, in that state, Drakshadi Kashayam is the best. I have not seen many people using Drakshadi Kashayam in fevers as a first line of treatment. So once this clue was obtained, Chaladsa Pitta, that this is a Vata Pitta Vigalpa, what I've understood, most of the time we are anticipating a Kapha condition in fever and using the same medicines like Amrutharishtam or Amrutotharam Kashayam or Sudarshanam or Vettumar, and this is mostly the things that we are using. Whereas if you do a Dosha Vigalpa, especially if it is a Agandu type of fever, a different approach may give a very quick result. And I was surprised that by giving Drakshadi Kashayam, with just 2 doses, the fever subsided and didn't come back again. A fever which did not respond to even Crocin. So what made the difference? So if you were saying that for me, our medicine is Amrutotharam Kashayam, in a clinical trial, Amrutotharam Kashayam would have failed and nobody would have known why it failed. Amrutotharam Kashayam is not the medicine in that context. There was once one of my teachers, a patient was there with fever, and one of my teachers was there and under the guidance when I was a student, and asked me to give a medicine. So the first thing is I gave Amrutotharam Kashayam, and I told him I have given Amrutotharam Kashayam because it looks like Vata and Kapha is there and all that. So when he came and looked at the patient, he immediately told me that yes, it is not bad, but if you had made it Vyagradi, then it would have been more specific. So that made me really think a lot, because he said the focus, the sthana of the dosha is also very important, because Vyagradi Kashayam, so he had some respiratory symptoms, which I did not really give much attention to. In fact, there is only a small difference between Vyagradi Kashayam and Amrutotharam Kashayam. Only one medicine is different. In Amrutotharam Kashayam, we have Haridagi, Guduchi and Shunthi. In Vyagradi Kashayam, we have Vyagri, Guduchi and Shunthi. Vyagri, Shunthi, Amrda, Kwatha, Pippali Churna Samyuta, Vata Shleshma, Jwara Shwasa, Kasa Penasa, Shulajit. So just the difference of one medicine completely changes the target of that formulation. So a result that you may not get with Amrutotharam, you will get with Vyagradi Kashayam if it is given in the right avastha. So many medicines are there in Ayurveda. Now, if seeing a respiratory symptom, if I give Dashamula Kadutrayam Kashayam, will it work? Is a question. Because Dashamula Kadutrayam Kashayam does not have that much of a Jwara Haratvam, even though it may be able to address the respiratory symptoms. It is having Dashamulam and Kadutrayam. And especially when you say Katutrayam, Trikadu being there, it is very Ushna, and if there is a Pitta dominance, we have to be very careful. So this kind of distinctions are extremely very, very important when you are doing treatment. Now, there is another interesting concept, the usage of Ghritam. Now, in the modern way of giving Ayurvedic medicines, I am really wondering how these granularities, these fineness, we will be able to preserve. We really have to think about it. So, Ghritam tu pitte bhyadige lihyad vada athige pibed. Leadham nirvabayet pittam alpatvad handinanalam akramatya anilam bedam ushmanam nirunatija. So it is not at all, not just one thing. To know when to give ghee in fever is a very, very important therapeutic decision. But how to give it is also equally important. So here what Acharya is telling is that asking a person to take 1 spoon of ghee will have a different therapeutic effect than asking a person to lick the ghee. Ghridam tu pitte bhyadige likhyad. When pitta is dominant, you must ask the patient to just, lick the ghee little by little. When vata is important, you have to ask the patient to take ghee in larger quantity. So the way the ghrida is applied is different. I remember a case when I was a student treated by some of our seniors, a patient who had severe inflammation of the digestive tract. And the severe inflammation. So we were all watching. We were juniors at that time. Our seniors were discussing, and one of our senior, good student in that, and they were in the clinical batch. So they decided that Dadimadi Girdam would be good, and Dadimadi Girdam was administered. But in a few days, the patient came back, and there was such an aggravation of that person's condition. So then there was a debate as to why this happened, whether the medicine was wrongly chosen, should we try another medicine? But that senior, who had chosen that medicine was very sure that Dadimadi was the best choice. And then why did this happen? Why did this aggravation happen? After a lot of thinking, they came across this sloka. So this is something which I learned when I was a student, seeing an actual case. They decided, they told that patient, now there's no change in the medicine, but you go back and just take little by little the medicine, ghee you keep in your tongue and slowly swallow it. And within a week, the patient came back, he was feeling much better. So I have seen this difference actually in real life at a student stage itself. So now this has become a very fundamental principle when you're doing the treatment. It's very important to distinguish between, is there a Vata dominant stage or Pitta dominant stage? Because Vata Pitta and Pitta Vata are different. In a Vata Pitta condition, your approach is different. In a Pitta Vata condition, the approach is different. And this may shift in the same patient depending on the Kala, Desha, the food that they take, the medicines that you give. A Vata Pitta condition can slip to Pitta Vata condition, or a Pitta Vata condition can slip to a Vata Pitta condition. A Vata Pitta condition is like a fire blown by the wind. It will spread everywhere, Visarpanam. So if you have a Visarpa type of disease, something which is spreading suddenly all over the body, and with strong, this is mentioned as Agni Visarpa. Agni Marudayos Tulyam. In Vadarakta Charaga, it is mentioned the coming together of Vata and Agni is like fire and air itself. It is so powerful. It's like a forest fire. It will spread everywhere. But when it is Pitta Vata, it is different. It's like a laser beam. A Pitta Vata condition will cause ulcer in your stomach. In one point, the heat will work and it will go deep inside. So in a Pitta Vata condition, you have to take a different approach. And in a Vata Pitta condition, you have to take a different approach. In a Pitta Vata condition, actually, Kshira will be more relevant. Whereas in a Vata Pitta condition, Ghirda will be Vata Pitta Jidam Agrim Samskaram Anuvartade. That is what the Ghirda is talked about. So these kind of distinctions are really very, very important. And we really need to bring them back into practice to be able to create, this big change in clinical outcomes. Now you can see in Rakta Pitta, there is a condition. So many conditions are like this. In Rakta Pitta, Chara can be given in a particular condition. Rakte Sapiche Sakabhe Grathide Kantamargage Lihyan Makshiga Sarpibhyam Charam Utpala Nalajam. So you may think, in a condition of Rakta Pitta, can we give Chara? Now in COVID-19, we are having this problem because we have severe blood clot happening. In a Vata Kapha condition, when in the background of Vata Kapha condition, when there is a Pitta Vriddhi, there is a Kavana Bandhatva, and there is Grathana of the Rakta. And this has been anticipated. So this is an Avastha. So a Kapha dominant Avastha of Rakta Pitta is what comes to your mind when you see a patient with COVID presenting in that way. This is the beauty of the whole Ayurvedic concept of disease. It's not just one single disease. They have tried to tell you the avasthas through which the disease can go. In Charaka Samhita Nidana Sthanam, why there are only 8 chapters? I've always wondered why Acharya suddenly stops. He's just telling that, Nidana Sthana, we cannot study Nidana alone. Nidana, Chikitsa, Dravya to be studied together. So he's shifting it. After starting Nidana, he stops. But in Nidana, he's giving you a template. Nidana Sthana 8 chapters are telling how the disease will progress, how the avasthas will come in a disease. So the first 3 diseases, Jwara, Rakta Pitta, Gulma, represents the koshta. Then we have prameha and kushta, which indicate the shakha. Then shosha, which indicates the marma or the madhyama roga marga. And then we have unmada and abasmara, which indicates the manas. So sharira, manas and the roga margas. And if you really look at it more carefully, you can see rasa, rakta, mamsa, medas, asti, majja, shukra. These dhatus and ojas affected in the manorogas. So what Acharya is trying to tell us is that whatever disease it is, don't worry about fixing it as a disease. These are the avastha visheshas through which all diseases will go. So in COVID-19 also you may find that the principles of Rakta Pitta is helpful, the principles of Jwara is helpful, the principles of Grahani may be relevant in some context when you identify that in the patient, because the avasthas are continuously changing. Similarly, we can find the usage of Haridagi in Adhisara. Adhisara is a disease where the mala is going out. And just imagine Acharya advising us that you should use Haridagi in Adhisara. So pranada doshe vibandhe sampravartini. So when there is a condition of vibandha in Adhisara, even Haridagi can be given, it becomes helpful. And here is the context of Bahudoshatvam. This is very important. In Ayurveda, I will come to the classification of ama shortly. It is 1.5 hours. I must also look at the time. So Bahudosha, only when somebody has Bahudosha, you should do Shodhana. If it is Madhyama dosha or Alpa dosha, we don't need to do Shodhana. So Panchakarma is not something, it's completely wrongly understood that we should do. Only when we do all the Panchakarmas together, we can call it as Panchakarma. Otherwise, it is just Shodhana. And even that Shodhana is not required in all conditions. The conditions are direct Shodhana, Sadhya Shodhana, when we can do, when doshas are in Chalavastha and when there is Bahudosha Avastha. If doshas are Bahudosha but not Chala, then we cannot do Shodhana. We should first do Deepanair, Pajanair, Snehai, Stan Svedaischa Parishkradan, Nyatva, Koshta Prabannamscha, Yathasannam Vihinarhave. So only for Bahudosha, that Avastha, we are able to do Shodhana. So now I also want to talk about another experience which I had in my clinical practice, is the use of Thaila in Adhisara. And here again, I want to remember what I learned from my teachers when I was a student in Coimbatore Ayurveda College. So I'm reminded, that's why I'm telling this thing. I was fascinated when I heard in my class that we can give Thaila in one condition in a context of Adhisara. I was very surprised. So this is the context. Pananu vasana abhyanga prayuktam tailamekada. Tadhi vadajidam agrim shulam cha vigunonila. Dhatvandaropa mardhadvai. Chalo vyapi, there are some typos here. Chalo vyapi sudhamaga. Tailam mandanalasyapi yuktya sharmagaram param. This was very, very surprising. That even for a mandanala in this condition, even if this Agni is not strong, you can still give Thailam. And I had a very wonderful experience where I could verify the effect of this treatment. Vaivashaye satailehi bimbisi navatishtate. This is the context of Pravahika or bimbisi. Chine male doshandareshu irana ega vire. Ko nishtan and pranadi koštashuli nandar bahis taila baro yadisya. So this idea that when you have a Koshta Shula, this is what I remembered when I just finished my course. I had to, work in one of my seniors' hospitals, and my senior doctor was not there. So the whole charge was given to me. I was just completed my course. It was a big excitement. And already one patient, when I came there, was already referred to an allopathic hospital for some drips and all that. So when I went in, there was this difficult patient. He had severe spasm in his abdomen. Severe spasm that he was screaming and crying. And so when I stepped into the hospital itself, I saw one patient who was being taken out to an allopathic hospital. And now the people there asked me what to do. Shall we also take this patient to an allopathic hospital? Somehow at that time and that young age, the rush of blood, my ego wouldn't let me to do that. I said, it's not a nice sign that the moment I'm stepping inside, all patients are being sent to an allopathic hospital. Let us see what we can do. So I gathered some courage and I went and examined the patient. And these slokas actually flashed in my mind. Somehow it appeared to me that this, Dhatvandarupamardadvai chalo vyapi suthamaga, you could actually feel that, manifestation of vata creating all that spasm and pain in his stomach. And suddenly this, wicked idea came into my mind. Why don't we give Thaila to this person? It's such spasmodic pain he's having, but I thought, let us try this. And I used oil at that time, what was available. Prasarani Thailam was there, Maharaja Prasarani Thailam. I don't know if there is exactly that Thailam was. I didn't know at that time whether it was relevant or not. But what I thought was that word Prasarani means to, spread and relax. So in my idea, many of this Prasarani Thailam is also good in stiffness and, contraction. So even the word, of course, that plant is something which spreads on the ground, but it also, this Thailam also has this effect of relieving spasm. And I thought we will give this Maharaja Prasarani Thailam, and I gave it in some Jeeraga water and with one Dhanvantaram pill. And this was given for 2-3 doses. So I just was praying and tried to do this on that day because I didn't want that patient to be immediately sent to the allopathic hospital. And I was surprised. After the second dose, the intensity of the pain reduced. And after 3 or 4 doses, by the next day, he was almost normal. And we did not have to shift him to an allopathic hospital. So this is repeatedly what I've experienced is, if your assessment of the avastha is very sharp, I can tell you that whenever I have failed, it is because of that lack of understanding of the clinical condition of the patient, not able to get that precise understanding of the avastha or get the precise vikalpa of the medicines. This is what is the basis of the failure of Ayurvedic medicine. I am inclined to believe that even our medicines will work fast if this thought process is correct. Why is our medicine slow? It's because our vikalpa is not correct. Once I was with a Nadi Vaidya, a specialist, and it was my own mother. She was having very severe boils in her legs, which will, burst and a lot of pus will come. It looked like a Pitta Kapha condition. And I was also just completing my course at that time. And so I treated her. Initially she took some antibiotics and all that. And she did not get much relief. Then I gave her any of our medicines. I tried Tiktagam Kashayam, Manjishtadi Kashayam. I asked her to give Tiktagam Gridam. And there were good results. By taking those medicines, her symptoms would reduce. She would get over that episode. But every year during that particular season, in the winter time, she would again get this. And it was very severe when it came. Every time we give our medicines, it would get into control and subside, but again it will happen. So since she was not getting completely cured, of course the shift from antibiotics to our medicines was a big relief for her because she had side effects and other stomach problems with that antibiotics, but it was not completely going. So I brought this Nadi Vaidya to my home, and he checked my mother and he prescribed just 3 medicines. Just 3 medicines. He said, you take the fresh bark of Aragvatha, then this Haritagi. There is a small variety of Haritagi. Take that. And then this Piper cubeba. This is called Valmulaga. And these 3 things he told to make a decoction and give to her. And then take the coriander seeds water. This is the only thing he said is required. So he said the whole problem is in the Koshta, and Aragvatha is Koshta Shuddhigaram Param. Haridagi is Pachana and Anulomana, Kritva Pagam Malanam Yad, Bhitva Bandhamayu Athonayad. And he said that Piper, that Valmulaga is the only thing that is needed for her Agni. So that exact combination he told. And I must tell you, he told her to take it for at least a year. She took for 8-9 months. But after that, she has never had that problem again. So see the power of just 3 herbs when it is made precise according to the condition of the patient. Whereas I gave her Tiktagam Kashayam, Manjishtadi Kashayam, Tiktagam Gridam, Trivrit, Lehyam, Manibhadram, so many things I made her to take did not produce such an effect. So this precision thinking, Avastha Vishishta thinking, we have lost. This is because of our training. So it's one thing to know the logic of a yoga in Ayurveda, but a second thing to be able to create your own yoga. That is when you really become a physician. That is when we can start doing wonders. When I was young, I used to see all physicians that I used to consult, Ayurveda physicians in my young days, they would never prescribe a prepared medicine. We had to prepare everything at home, and that would be a customized combination. So another interesting thing, Avastha for Mamsa Prayoga, Jangalai Pradibhuktasya Vartagadya Bilesya Kramasha Prasahas Tadvat Prayojya Pisidasana Aushnyat Pramadhi Bhavacha Srodobhyas Chavayandite Kabham Shuddhaischa Tai Pushtim Kuryad Rasaha. So here the most interesting thing is we have heard of using Mamsarasa for Bala, but using Mamsarasa for Srodha Shuddhi and Brahmana at the same time, it's a very peculiar kind of prayoga, which is very specifically mentioned, in the Ayurvedic text. Aushnyat Pramadhi Bhavacha. So here the whole concept of using Mamsarasa is for Srodha Vishodhana, and only particular type of Mamsa will be helpful here. Jangalai Pradibhuktasya, Vartagadya Vilesaya, Kramasha, Prasahas Tadvat Prajojya Pisidasana. So the meat of carnivorous animals, Jangala Desha animals, have this ability. And so this is the very specific use of dravyas in very specific context. So even Mamsa Prayoga is very general. What type of Mamsa to use and in what context for what effect. This really shows the richness of the Ayurvedic treatment. And this is the very interesting thing. We heard earlier that Tailam Mandanalasya. You can give Taila when there is Mandanalatva, which is normally not given. When the context is correct, when so much of Vadavriddhi is there, you can ignore Agni and give it. That has clearly been indicated. And I have first-hand experience of its efficacy. Kshirojidasya prakshina shleshmano daha tridvada kshiram pittanilartasya pathyam apyatisarina. So even a person is having adhisarana, you can give kshiram. Normally we don't give it. But here he says, in this condition, prakshina shleshmano pittanilartasya. And a very important point is mentioned here. We are always talking about lactose intolerance, whether our acharyas knew about it. Here is a very interesting prayoga. Kshirochitasya. Kshiram ujidam yasya. Kshirochita. Kshira anujidasya na prayojyam. So you cannot give it to a person who cannot tolerate kshira. So if you read our text very carefully, you get a very deep understanding, of the context. And then he very beautifully explains, Tad babur lankhanottaptam plushtam vanamivagnina divyambu jivayetasya jwaram chashu nivartayet. So this is a very, in Jwara Chikitsa itself, actually, all the avasthas, when we were students, we were told that we must study Jwara. Because in Jwara, we understand the avasthas of all the diseases. And if you study Jwara carefully, then you can treat all diseases. This was the principle that we all learned. And even today, all treatments for all diseases in some context or the other in Jwara, it has been mentioned. Raktamoksha has been mentioned. Vasti has been mentioned. Abhyanga has been mentioned. Lepa has been mentioned. Nasya has been mentioned. Vamana has been mentioned. Even Virejana has been mentioned. So there is, and if you look at the whole herbs that are the treatment for lumbar spondylosis is indicated in Jwara itself. That context where you have to treat lumbar spondylosis is coming in Jwara itself. We will look into that. Prakshina kabhabittasya trika prishthakadi grahe deeptagner baddha jagrada prayunjid anuvasa. So this is trika prishthakadi grahe, where Vasti is going to be helpful. So, in Jwara, we are anticipating the entire pathologies, because what is lumbar spondylosis? It is just the shoshana of the abdhadu in the vertebrae. So in Jwara itself, this condition is anticipated, a condition which happens through aging over a period of time. Here in Jwara itself, we are anticipating that. So prakshina kabhabittasya. This prakshinatva of kabhabitta is what happens also as these degenerative changes are happening in the body. So that context is already indicated here. So if you really study Jwara Chikitsa, this is one very, very important thing. We may wonder what is the use of studying Jwara Chikitsa, because today we are not treating many fevers. But you are learning Jwara Chikitsa not just to treat fevers. And in fact, we can treat also many fevers if we, apply these principles very intelligently. But learning Jwara Chikitsa is not just for treating Jwara, it is for treating all diseases. Because the whole principle of Ama Chikitsa is not mentioned again. If you don't study the rogas in sequence, one after the other, there is a reason why one disease is mentioned after the other. Jwara begins with Ushna Snigdha, increase of Ushna Snigdha guna in your body. And the whole Chikitsa sthana, Nidana sthana ends with Vada Vyathi, where Ruksha Shita guna is increasing in the body. So this movement of increase of Ushna Snigdha guna, body is naturally Shita Snigdha, the overpowering of Shita Snigdha guna by Ushna Snigdha, and a gradual disintegration of the body to a state of Shita Ruksha Avastha. This whole Avastha Vishesha, the whole progression of pathology is what Nidana Sthana and Chikitsa Sthana is indicating to us. So if we study these diseases very sequentially with a foundation in Jwara, why when Vadavyadhi is mentioned, Acharya boldly says, Kevalam Niruvastambam Adau Snehai Rupachare. So the Nirama Vada Chikitsa is the whole focus of Vadavyadhi Chikitsa. He doesn't have to describe about Ama Chikitsa at all, because somebody who has studied Jwara will know exactly how to handle Ama. So to understand Vadavyadhi Chikitsa, you must have already studied Jwara, because he skips the Sama Chikitsa portion completely and says Kevalam Niruvastambam Adau. That does not mean that Vadavyadhi will come without Ama. It's because we have learnt about that earlier. Now again, the Ahara Kala. Everywhere in Ayurveda, the Avastha is very, very important. When we talk about Ahara Kala, what are we talking about? Is it according to time? In many diseases in modern medicine also, when they say disciplining the body, they will say it is according to, you have a timely breakfast, 8 a.m., 1 p.m. In Ayurveda, it's based on biological time and also physical time. Both we have to consider. So, Sajjwaram Jwaramuktam va Dinante Bhojayet Lakhu Shleshmatshaya Vivruddhoshma Balavan Analastada. So there are two moments in the body when Agni will become strong. One is in the morning at the junction of Kapha Kala and Pitta Kala. In Jwara, when Kapha is causing Avarana of Pitta, that morning Kala will not be strong enough for us to digest the food. That is why in Jwara, evening Kala is indicated, because Shleshmatshaya Vivruddhoshma. Actually, by 10 o'clock, Shleshmatshaya should have happened. But in Jwara, Shleshmatshaya will not happen at that time. So, Shleshmatshaya Vivruddhoshma Balavan Analastada is happening in the Dinanda, in the evening. So, Yathojite Ethava Kale Deshasatmyanurodhada. And then he tells that if you have a doubt, even if you create Ajirna in the morning, there is no harm. Ajirna created in the evening is more harmful. So, again, he's not fixing, he's giving you all these options. Yathojite Ethava Kale. According to Deshasatme, you can choose when to give the medicine. Or you can, if you have a doubt when to give, safer is to give in the morning, even if it doesn't get digested. Prag alpavanir bhunjano nahya ajirnena pidyade. Pradarashe tvajirnevi sayamasho na dushyati. Ajirne sayamashe tu pradarasho hi dushyati. So it is, a heavy breakfast is not harmful, whereas a heavy dinner is very harmful. So this here, even when we are advising Pathya, in Jwara itself, almost all the principles have been mentioned. Now there is a contraindication of Peya in Jwara. Jirna ushadhonnam peyadyam acharet shleshma vannatu. Peya kabham vardhayadi pangam pamsu shubhrishtivat. This is such a beautiful understanding. Whenever we have a patient, it's very customary to give, blindly advise Peya for everybody. Ayurveda has pointed out that this is not correct. In many patients, Peya cannot be given. So, Shleshma Abhishyanna Dehana Madapragabi Yojed Yushani Kulatta Chanaga Kalayadi Kridan Lakun. So, according to the Dosha Avastha, even the Ahara is to be changed. Now, I want to come to the final parts of the discussions, because time is also flying, I would like to know from the organizers how much time I should take to conclude.
Sir, you can take few more minutes, sir. No problem.
Okay. So here I wanted to also point out that the prayoga of rasas is also based on avasthas. Maybe many of you are aware of this principle that is described in Kashyapa Samhita. Very interestingly, this is found only in Kashyapa Samhita. The sequence of using rasas. You know, when we have, when Acharya said Tatra Ruksho Lakushida Karas Sukshmas Chalo Nila and Pittam Sasneha Dikshnoshnam and Snigdha Shito, he's giving a big clue as to how the dravya should be chosen according to the avasthas, depending on the dosha vikalpa. Tatradya Marudam Granthi is also a very interesting clue here. You know, when you look at the rasas which are specifying Vata, it is Madhura, Amla and Lavana. Very interestingly, if you ask which virya is more effective for Vata, Ushna or Shita, it's difficult to answer because many of us would say Ushna is good for Vata, but Madhura Rasa is Shita. So which means that Shita virya can also reduce Vata. But what is common amongst all these rasas is Snigdha Guna. So Snigdha Guna is really the basis for pacification of Vata. So in any Vata avastha, you have to bring Snigdha Guna. That is the important principle we learn. That is why Acharya said Tatra Ruksho. Why did he use the word Ruksha first? Is to understand that the treatment should always be Snigdha. It can be Shita or it can be Ushna according to the avastha, but it has to be always Snigdha. That is why Vata Syobakrama Sneha. When he came to the treatment of Vata, he said Sneha, Snigdha. And when he came to the properties of Vata, he said Ruksha, Tatra Ruksho. And in the rasas, he says Madhura Rasa, Amla Rasa, Lavana. All the three are having Snigdha Guna. Two of the rasas are Ushna and one is Shita. So you control Vata with Snigdha Guna and regulate it with Shita or Ushna. When you come to Kapha, it is the other way around. Even when you ask which virya will affect Kapha, all of us will say Ushna virya is needed for Kapha. But please think about it. Two of the rasas which are Kapha Shamaka are having Shita virya. Tikta rasa and Kashaya rasa both are Shita. So Shita is more effective to control Kapha. And only one rasa is Ushna, Katu. And Katu is not the most Ushna rasa. Actually, Lavana has the highest degree of Ushna. That is why Lavana we can use only very little. Lavana is contraindicated. Lavanam, Pippali, Charam regularly cannot use. So even Kadu rasa is allowed a little bit more than Lavana rasa because Ushnatva of Lavana is more. So it is not Ushnatva which controls Kapha, but it is Ruksha Guna. Ruksha Guna associated with Shita or Ushna according to the avastha. So whether to use Shita or Ushna in Kapha depends on the avastha. But for Ruksha, we have no choice. When it comes to Pitta, it is the other way around. In Pitta, Gunas doesn't matter. You can use Ruksha Guna or you can use Snigdha Guna. But you have to use Shita Virya. Otherwise, Pitta will not be controlled. So here, it is only in Kashyapa Samhita this avasthanusara rasa concept is mentioned. So Kadu Tikta Kashayamstu Rasan Pratnyo Yathakramam Yogata Kaphaje Vyadau Vaishajyam Avacharayet. So here in Kapha it is said first you have to use Kadu Rasa. Because why? Purvam Paichilyam Gauravam Chayat Sleshmanastan Nihantyashu Tiktam Tasmadanandaram Hrasayatya Asya Madhurayam Kapham Samshoshayatyapi. Sangrihnadi kashayascha sneham chasya apakarshati. So when you want to treat kapha, it's very, very important. This is a very important clue on how to choose the dravyas for using, for treating against kapha. In my practice, I have found when you use aragvadadi kashayam or when you use tiktagam kashayam, depending on whether it is kapha pitta or pitta kapha, your results will be different. I have found with aragvadadi conditions aggravating, which will specify with Tiktagam Kashayam. But when you give some conditions, it will respond only to Aragvadadi Kashayam. This is because the dosha vikalpa has to be understood. So Katu, Tikta and Kashaya is the sequence in which rasa has to be used for kapha. Now, when you come to Pitta, the sequence is very important. It's not enough to just know Tatradya Manadam Grandhi. How you use the sequence makes all the difference in the results. In Pitta, we must definitely, in the beginning, we must use Tikta Rasa. When you look at Panduroga Chikilsa, when you look at Jwara Chikilsa, also you can see in the beginning Tikta Go Rasa, because Asama Pitta has always to be managed with Tikta Rasa. When you look at Pandu, also in the beginning, Vasa Gudu Chadi is mentioned. Towards the end, you will see Drakshadi is mentioned. Then later, Kashaya Rasa Pradhana Dravyas will be indicated. So, Tikta Swadu Kashayasyu Kramasha Paitige Hidar. So, when there is Amanvetva in Pitta, we have to use Tikta Rasam. Tikta Rasa is Ruksha and Shita. And then Madhura Rasa should be brought in. So, Saityad Gurutvad Snehacha Madhuryacha Niyachadi. So, once the Amapachana has been done, because Mathura Rasa has the strongest Shita Virya. Tikta Rasa is not. Tikta Rasa, while it removes the Amatva of Pitta, it cannot pacify Pitta because the intensity of Shaitya is not enough. Madhura Rasa will really bring it down. But once you bring down Madhura Rasa, then tat dravatva vighadartham kashayascha avajarida raukshad vishoshi bhavacha vishoshedi tejasam. So this is a very beautiful way of understanding how every time you interact with the body, there is a response. The avastha will change and you have to do something else again to balance it. It is like, a balance itself. When you put one thing here, it just goes up and down, and only gradually it will balance. So then comes the avastha-based prayogas of rasas. I think I will have to stop here. There were some more points to be discussed, but that will not be possible today. So, but I will just show the slides which I wanted to discuss and just give an overview and conclude. So in Vata condition, Lavatike Levanam Purvam Samyogad Avacharida Prakledi Bhavajayadi Vibandham Madarishwaram. This is very, very important. In a Vata Kapha condition, Vata is blocked by Kapha. So two types of Vata is there. One is the Vata Aviruddha Vada and then the Vruddha Vata. So for Aviruddha Vada, Lavana Rasa is most important. That is why in Shwasa and all, Lavana Rasa is indicated. Now this is a very important clue to understand how to use also the Pinda Svedas. A Lavana Pinda Sveda is necessary when there is Vibandha of Vata. Vibandha means Vata is blocked. But Nihanti Shaitya Mushnatvad Gurutva Chabi Lakhavam. But the next is Amla Rasa. Tathaiva Amlo Rasa Paschat Tasmin Eva Avacharida Jadi Granani Srodamsi Taikshnyad Utpatyamaridam. So where should we use Amla Rasa for Vada? Not when Vada is blocked, when Vada is in a Jadavastha, Mudha Vada. So Amla Rasa, one of the properties of Amla Rasa is Mudha Vada Anulomanam. So here, when you are using Amla Rasa, Vata is not blocked, but it is, in a lazy state. It's not able to move. You need to activate. So this is the difference between using a Lavana based Pinda Sweda in Vata and like Dhanya Amla, the concept of Dhanya Amla. When you use Dhanya Amla Dhara, you are actually activating Vata. You're improving the circulation. You are, stimulating the movement of prana in the body. Jadigradani Srodamsi Taikshnyad Utpatyamaridam Anulomedi Chipram Snigdhotshnatvad Vimargagam. So the Vimargaga Vata is brought back by Amla Rasa. The Vibandha Vata is released by Lavana Rasa. So this is very important when you are giving Dadivashtaga Churnam or Kabithashtaga Churnam, Hinguvajadi Churnam or Jivani Adi Ganam for Vata treatment. This principle is actually followed. So, Amlad Anandaram Paschat Prayukto Madhuro Rasa Vayor Lakutvam Vaisadyam Rukshatvam cha Vyapohati. So, in the end, we bring in Madhura Rasa. So, preparing the body to receive Madhura Rasa is the whole process. So, this sequencing of rasas gives us a very important framework for choosing the right herb and the right formulation according to the avastha of the disease. Now, I'm coming to the last part. There were the avastha visheshas cannot be fully understood unless we discuss about the avasthas of ama and dosha, but that is beyond the scope of our discussion today. So I just want to give you a framework. all clinical decisions in Ayurveda, one of the basic things we have to understand is the Vishesha of Ama. Ama has to be assessed on the basis of quantity, quality, on the basis of the associated dosha and the location. Ama could be Alpa, Madhya or Bahu. So that is a quantitative assessment. Alpa Ama does not require Shodhana. Madhya Ama can be handled by Pachana Shodhana. Bahu Ama always requires Shodhana. So this can bring a very objective criteria to Ayurvedic practice. When you want to do a Shodhana, the physician has to clearly indicate, yes, here there is Bahudoshatvam. Now, just because of Bahudosha, you cannot do it. The qualitative assessment is needed. What is the Avastha? Leena Avastha, Leena Leena Avastha, Alina Chala Avastha, and Chala Avastha. These are the 4 Avasthas of Ama. In Leena Avastha, the disease is silent. Leenatvad, Karshya Vaivarnya Jadya Adin, Adadhadisa. Tatrasthasya Vilamberan Bhuyo Hedu Pradikshana. Leena diseases are silent diseases like cancer and heart disease, where for a long time you will not have any symptoms. Once fine day, it kills you. In fact, today in modern society, the 2 killer diseases are cancer and heart disease. And that is because our lifestyle is promoting Leena Ama in the system. Leena Ama is in episodic illnesses like epilepsy, bronchial asthma. Suddenly there will be an attack and then it will be quiet. Alina Achala Ama is in chronic diseases. And Chala is in an acute disease. Tatrotkrishte, Samutkrishte, Kabhapraye, Chale Male, Sadyo Bhuktasya Sanjade. Vamanam Vamanarhasya Sastam Guryatadanyatha. So this is mentioned that Chalavastha of the dosha is where you can do Sadhya Shodhanam, Sadhyo Vamanam, Sadhyo Virojanam. If dosha is in Chalavastha, you don't have to do Dibana Pajana or Sneh. But if dosha is not in Chalavastha, then you have to do Snehaner, Dibaner, Pajaner, Snehai, Stan, Swedaisha Parishkar. Then we have to do that. So an assessment of the Ama is enabling us to identify the correct avastha in which you can choose the right line of treatment. Then how do we decide what medicine should be used? Whether it is Ama or Vidagdha or Vishtabdha. Depending on that, the right herbs should be used for this process. And then where is it located? Is it in the Koshta? Is it in the Shaka? Or is it in the Marma? Today we cannot go into all the details, but this is the real point. And this is a Ama classification chart which you can use in your clinical practice. I have come to call this system of diagnosis as the ADS system of diagnosis, which is the Avastha Vishishta Chikitsa of Ayurveda, assessment of Ama, Dosha and Sthana. The next is the Dosha. So dosha, we have to do the Vikalpa, whether it is Ekadosha, Samsarga or Sannipada. And I want to point out, Vada Pitta is different from Pitta Vada. Kapha Pitta is different from Pitta Kapha. Vada Kapha is different from Kapha Vada. Vada Kapha is like, Vata is pushing the Kapha out. So if you have sneezing, if there is running nose, then it means it is a Vata Kapha condition. Here we have to treat Vata more and not Kapha. Because if we give more Ruksha and Ushna treatments, Kapha will get more irritated and the disease will aggravate. Whereas in a Kapha Vada condition, Kapha is blocking Vada. So there Kapha has to be removed. Similarly, Kapha Pitta is different from Pitta Kapha. In Kapha Pitta, there is a Pitta is inside, Kapha is outside. So outside it will be like cold. Inside is the heat. Gambhira Pagi, Prajyoshma, Kapha Pitta type of Visarpa it is indicated. So these stages can also be illustrated and we can bring it into specific diseases, but that and how to choose the treatment should be probably a discussion for a more advanced webinar. We cannot go into that today. I just wanted to give an overview and we'll conclude with this sloka. The remaining slides were about the detailed Vigalpana of Ama and Dosha, which we are not attempting today. Tadhanda Sandhi Marganam Doshanam Gutajarinam Bhaved Kadajit Karya Bhi Viruddhabhimada Kriya. So this is the last slide. Pittam Andargadam Gutham Svedas Segopa Panahane. So here I want to point out that Acharyas have explained what is the difference between a Kapha Pitta condition and a Pitta Kapha condition. This here it is very clearly explained. I'm not going into the details, but here he says Bahyaischa Sidai Sekair Segadye Ushma Andaryade Pidida, Sundar Gudham Kapham Handi Shidam Shida is Tada Jayet. So when there's Kapha is inside and Pitta is outside, how you must read. When Pitta is inside and Kapha is outside, how you must read. So these kind of dosha vikalpas are important. And so as a conclusion, I want to say this is why our Acharya said, Vikara Nama Kushalo na Jikhriyat Kadachana. Nahi sarva vigaranam namadosti dhruvasthiti. Sa eva kupito dosha samuthana visheshada sthanandara gataschaiva rogan prakurute bahun. So what we have to study through our diseases are the avastha visheshas. So even what we call today as one patient, you may find the avasthas of many diseases coming together. Like in dengue fever, we can see the condition of Rakta Pitta. In chikungunya, we can see the condition of Vata Rakta. So this kind of a movement of diseases across these sampraptis, this is the crux of Ayurvedic diagnosis. And if we start thinking in this way, I think we can make a big revolution. And as Vagbhada said, Samsargad rasarudhiradhivistadaisham doshascha kshaya samada vivriddhi bhedai anandyam taradama yogadascha yadan jani yad avahidamanaso yathas. This is the advice given by Acharya when it comes to avastha vishesha. He says you should have the capability of doing the vikalpa of ananda vikalpa. Infinite, it is almost like an artificial intelligence. You need deep learning, you need deep neural networks learning, you need AI applications. Your brain should become so powerful that samsarga, the rasarudhiradivistataisam. Here is alpa ama in a vata pitta combination in rasadhatu, it is different. If it is in rakta dhatu, it is different. Bahudosha chalavastha in rasadhatu is different from bahudosha chalavastha in another dhatu, in a particular roga marga, in a particular avayava. These vikalpas, he says, and also the doshas taratama bheda when you do the vikalpa, anandyam taratama yogas chayadan. When you do these vikalpas, the combinations and permutations and combinations are anantam. And when our mind becomes capable of addressing this infinity is what we consider in biological variability is at the scale of infinity. And when we prepare our mind to deal with that infinity, then we become a powerful Ayurvedic physician. So learning Ayurveda is in the thought process of Ayurveda. And this requires consistent adhyayana, adhyavana, and tadvidya sambhasha. So with these words, let me conclude here. And I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity. I do not know if I took too much of time. I did not look at the time, but I think that everything has to come to an end. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So now the participants, the session is open for discussion. You can post your questions in the link provided in the chat box. Okay. Sir, there are a few questions, sir. Can I read them out?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Sir, could you advise how to distinguish practically between Tanu or Gana Kapha from Kaphanubandha Pitta Kasa?
Yes, I mean, see, this is based on the productivity. First thing is we have to understand whether it is Pitta Kasa itself. That is the first thing. So this is a very tricky thing because in the Pitta dominant Kasa, you are assessing Kaphanubandhatva and you are also assessing the Tanutva or Ghanatva of the Kapha. So the Ghana Kapha, one of the ways is to look at the productivity. I mean, the sputum, examination of the sputum is one of the most straightforward ways to understand Ghanatvam or Tanutvam. So it's a very straightforward thing that way. So how much the Ghana Kapha is thick sputum, it will be very solid, hard. And in a Pittanubandha Kapha, the color will also indicate. It will be yellowish to greenish kind of color indicates the Pittanubandhatvam. So that is the thing in Ayurveda. It's all based on, that's why I gave the imagery of Arjuna. It's all based on very minute analysis of the doshas. So if you don't have those minute observatory powers, I mean, you will miss. There is no simple scanning or something to understand. So you have to touch, feel, see how the patient is presenting his symptoms. On that basis only we can understand.
Thank you, sir.
Next question.
Next question, sir. What can we do in a state of hypoxia?
Yes, I mean, it depends also on the condition. We have to understand why the hypoxia is happening. So hypoxia can happen from a doshic point of view. If it is focused in the lungs, lungs is a sthana of kapha, is it not? That is a sthana of kapha. The next important dosha here is vata, because it is through the movement of vata that the whole respiration is happening. So uras is kapha sthana, but the second important dosha there is vata. So in a vata kapha sthana, usually the problem of breathing difficulty is happening due to an interaction between vata and kapha. So if you look at, because recently we had this experience in COVID-19, if we do a very careful dosha vikalpa, as I was telling, hypoxia patient, we have just published a case report on that. It's almost in the final stage of publication. Just the administration of Shardharana Churna, in Muhur stage. So this patient had a SpO2 of 80%. It's very bad. And in a hospital, they are put them on oxygenation. They were planning to give Fabiflu. Nothing has worked. So here the condition was assessed as avarana of vata by kapha. The amashya was considered as involved. This is very important. In COVID, a lot of patients are getting intestinal symptoms, diarrhea. The intestine is also affected. And in such patients, respiratory symptoms are found to progress to more severity. So the connection with the koshta is understood. And if we know that is why we have to understand the samprapti very clearly. What is the cause for hypoxia? And then when we are giving Shardharana Churna, and when that koshta is corrected, the hypoxia reduced within 24 hours. And in 2 days, the patient was completely taken off oxygen. So what I wanted to say is that it depends. We must understand what is the context of hypoxia and what is the samprapti involved. And then if we give the treatment, I just gave one example because COVID-19 is a case which we are handling with now, and hypoxia is one of the biggest problems. There is a condition called happy hypoxia, where patients have no symptoms, but they still may be hypoxic. And when it reaches a critical stage, they will suddenly collapse.
Thank you, sir. Next question. How to know the chala avastha of dosha in bahudosha avastha? Can you quote an example?
Yeah, chala avastha is when the disease is acute. In chala avastha, it is a fight between the body and the dosha. So the condition will present in an acute form. So this is a very common question that is asked. There are some criteria we can use. One is that in a chala avastha, the disease will be very active. It will present as a crisis. Second thing is we must know whether it is bahudosha chala or not. If it is bahudosha, then the symptoms will be very severe. Full symptom presentation in an acute form is bahu chala dosha avastha. Not all symptoms, but in an acute state is alpa or madhyama dosha in chala avastha. So the chala, achala, lina, and is understood basically from my experience by the clinical presentation of the disease. If the disease is silent, then it is lina avastha. If it is episodic, it is lina, alina. If it is chronic, it is alina, achala. And if it is acute, it is chala avastha. So in many diseases, it can happen. An epilepsy patient, you cannot say he's cured when he does not have a problem. It only means the dosha is in a lina avastha. Even in rheumatoid arthritis, in multiple sclerosis, we can reclassify multiple sclerosis based on this AMA condition. You have primary, progressive, you have relapsing remitting, you have secondary progressive. So the primary progressive multiple sclerosis is AMA in a chala avastha. It is progressing very quickly. Whereas a relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis is AMA in a lina avastha. Because when the AMA is in lina avastha, the patient will become okay. And only when the AMA comes back again, alina and achala, they will have an attack. Secondary progressive is, in the beginning, the AMA is lina, but after a stage, it becomes chala. So this is a very, very useful, actually in Ayurveda, many diseases have been classified in this way. If you read the text very carefully, it will give us a very quick clue on how to handle, how to understand an emergency or chronic condition and handle it.
Thank you, sir. Next question. How can we diagnose Mudavata or Avritavata?
Yes, Mudhavata is also understood also through Upasaya. Sometimes it's not so easy. It's not easy because that is why Gudalingam Vyadhim Upasaya Anupasayabhya. So we arrive at there are only two possibilities when it comes to Vata, whether it is Mudhavada or whether it is Avritavada or whether it is Vriddhavada. So when there is Avarana, you are able to see the signs of Avarana. I will give one example. When Anyonya Avarana happens, Prana Avrade Samanesyu Jada Gadgada Mugadaha. When Prana Vayu, Samana Vata is undergoing Avarana by Pranavata. What are the symptoms? There are some symptoms, is it not? This is very, very tricky to understand. The symptoms are actually Jada Gadgada Mugadaha. They are not related to Prana or Samana. The functions of Udana Vayu is affected when Samana Vata is under Avarana by Pranavata. So this is very interesting because the Vata, each Vata is continuing to the other. Pranavata is the first impulse. When I just make some movement, we can call that as Prana. Praknayadi di Prana. When the pranic impulse becomes harmonic, it becomes Samana Vata. When you please rub your hand continuously, it becomes hot, is it not? So Samana Vata becomes Udana Vata. That is why it is said Samano Agni Samipasta. So one Prana Vata, Vata is just one sequence. Prana, Samana, Udana, then Vyana and Apana is the sequence. Heated Vata will go up and explode. When air is heated up, it will go upward. When it starts cooling down, it will spread. So Vyana is the spreading Vata. And when it cools again, it will come down as Apana Vata. So this is one cycle in the body of Vata. Every activity in the body is happening through this cycle. Now in this, what is happening is when the function of one Vata is covered by the other, then the function of the next Vata is affected. So this is the very details. So you may mistake Pranavrada Samana as Udana Vata dysfunction. That is a problem because Jada Gadgada Mogada is a function of Vak Pravritti Prayatnorja Balavarna Smriti Kriya, is a function of Udana Vata. So when you see the symptom face value, you may think that it is a damage to Udana Vata. And if you do Udana Vata, you will not get the result. But if you know that it is actually Samana Vata has to be released from the clutches of Prana. So this is the way, what is Avrita, what is Avarana, requires very detailed study of the Shastras and a detailed analysis of symptoms. So I hope some clue I could give here.
Thank you, sir. That is for the discussion session, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sudhirajan, sir, to speak a few words. Sir, sorry, sir, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Sudhir, sir.
Yeah.
I would like to put a word here.
Yeah, sir. Sure, sir.
Dr. Ram Manohar.
Sir.
I have listened to you after a long time. And it took me to the classroom. And it was really, you look at me, I am now with the patient, right? But it helped me a lot. And one of the patients beside me, and she was also listening to you. And really, the step-by-step avastha vishesha, that really motivates every teacher. I feel you had to do a special class for the teachers.
So thank you, sir. I'm humbled that you listen to this class. You're so busy. I never expected that you will be there.
But I was totally with you.
Oh, thank you.
Totally, I am with you. And I also want Dr. Sudhir to share me the recorded class also. This helped me making change in the hospital. and thinking of the teachers.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will send.
So once again, on behalf of all the participants, I would like to express indebtedness to Dr. Ram Manohar.
Thank you, sir. I'm really humbled.
And
Your-
also Sudhir for arranging such a nice, the brain opening. It opens the mind, Dr. Sudhir. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Now principal will comment.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vaidya Ramanohar sir, for sharing your valuable session. Actually, no words to say because it was an excellent session, and our all views, what were with me also, actually changed.
So you have
Sir,
become
Sir,
muted.
you're on mute again, sir. Yes.
One minute. These
Now it's
areas,
correct.
Importance of Avastha of Roga in clinical management is well explained with basic concepts of Ayurveda, and with a beautiful picture he had explained the difference between an Ayurvedic doctor and with an allopathic doctor. Actually, it is very attractive picture. I think this picture will be there in the everyone's mind. And he discussed the importance of Avasthanasarana Chikitsa and the Amshamsha Kalpana in Chikitsa of Jara, Kasa, Raktapiksa, etc. with the examples of usage of commonly using different formulations. And nowadays, Vyadhi Pratinika Chikitsa is followed by most of the doctors, but it is having so many drawbacks. So we the Ayurvedic Vaidyas has to follow Avasthanasarana Chikitsa for the better management of diseases. Even though the topic was very vast, he presented it in an understandable way. I am greatly indebted to him for his guidance and support for bringing Vaidya Rajesh Bhattacharyya sir for our Samsiddhi valedictory function, without which this valedictory function could not have been a grand success. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the all Samsiddhi team, I thank once again for taking time and sharing your valuable experiences. Once again, I thank Vaidya Rajesh Bhattacharyya sir, Dr. Prasanna N. Rao sir, and Dr. Senthil Ganesh for being with us and graced our valedictory function of Samsiddhi 2020. I thank e-learning, Diksha e-learning for powering the all Samsiddhi 2020. Thank you all the participants from India and abroad who had.
Sir, you're on mute, sir.
Special thanks to Dr. Chako sir, Raghuram Bhatta sir, CG Ray, Vinod sir, and everybody other dignitaries who joined with us. And my special thanks to all the faculties and students who had worked hard as a team for making this event a grand success. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. As we all know, the whole world is fighting these tough times of COVID-19. So let us all pray for those who are suffering this deadly pandemic.
लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
There is a special announcement. Participants are hereby requested to join on the FB Live of Ayush Ministry on 14th August, 10 a.m. for Ayush Immunity Abhiyan. Sir, can we conclude, sir?
Hello.
Sir, can we conclude, sir?
Thank you. So I would also.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody for participating and joining with us. We will conduct every year Samsiddhi as a seminar. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Quoting Christopher Pike, a true teacher will never tell you what to do, but he would give you the knowledge with which you can decide what is best for you to do. Thank you all the guests and delegates for joining with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you all once again. Wishing you all have a great evening ahead. Thank you. Good night.